Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. This is a live event intended to be less than 60 minutes, hosted by Global Chamber. You may be watching this on YouTube. Our goal is to get most of our programs, especially the really good ones like this one, up on YouTube so that everybody gets a chance to take a look at it and benefit from it. We're very honored to have Deborah Shames come in today and speak for the second time at Global Chamber. And the first time was really memorable. Deborah reminded me that I thought my memory, which maybe goes to my personality, my memory was that she had shared with us 200 negative words or bad words not to use, but what it was alternative words, I think 500 words to replace words like help, mainly help. We all use the word help, and Deborah explains it much better than me, but I recognize that the dilemma we have sometimes when either we're writing or we're speaking is that we're just using words that we think fit the moment. And some of those words don't really fit the moment if you want to fill the room, like Deborah is so good at. She's lived a lifetime of outstanding and exemplary business leadership. And I didn't really fully appreciate this, that even though now she's outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, she spent a lot of time, and maybe I just forgot that she spent a lot of time in the Los Angeles area where I happen to be today. She's been received all sorts of awards. She's a four-time book author. She's just not just a normal person. She's exemplary and one that we can all learn from, not just women, but hopefully men as well. We'll probably have a few men here, including myself, listening and learning. Deborah, thank you for your leadership. I think you've already put some information about your contact information in the room. If anyone is not able to get a hold of Deborah, please let us know and we'll be able to find a way to connect you. Without further ado, the amazing, the extraordinary, she will not help you with things, she will elevate you on so many levels, Deborah Shames. Thank you for joining
Thank
Global
you.
Chamber today.
What an introduction. So last year, my partner David Booth and I penned an article called Everything You Learned About Public Speaking is Wrong. And it was published by Fast Company, as well as picked up by other publications. And unfortunately, the demographic that is most affected by old-fashioned models of speaking and presenting are women. We were taught to gesture a certain way. We were taught to wear clothes a certain way. We were taught to show up and often not speak until we were absolutely sure that we were an expert. And that is damaging and not relevant in today's world. It doesn't make it any easier when I read articles in the mainstream press that says there is a push to get women back in the home, having more babies, and only be in the workforce for those specially designated roles that suit women. I have no idea what those are because in my history, women can be in any role in any industry. But when I look at broadcasters, for example, anchors that are wearing tight dresses and have bleach blonde hair and high heels and have to cross their legs in order to not reveal something private, my skin crawls. So what am I going to do today? Give you tools, techniques, and safety nets so that you can find your voice, so that you can speak out, and so that you can be memorable. Now, I am a big fan of the Chamber, thanks to not only Doug, but Dana Austin. So anyone that reaches out to me after this session and decides they want either one-on-one coaching or to come to a workshop, I will discount your fee as my contribution and support to the Chamber. So let's dive in. Doug, and if you would, or Jem, reduce me. I'd much rather see the audience than look at my own face. Thank you so much. That way I can see when you've raised your hand to chat, when you just unmute yourself, because this is your session. And I know that 90% of the population has speaker anxiety. I say the other 10% are lying. So in order to overcome the anxiety, speak up and tell me what your challenges are. Tell me what you want to know more about, and I'll address it. Now, what is it when I say everything you learned about public speaking is wrong? What are some examples? Here's one. You were all taught to say we because you're part of a team, correct? Yes or no? Nod your head. Here's the deal. Unless you say I, unless you tell us why something is important to you, why you have the experience, and why you can boast about somebody else, you will never persuade us to your point of view. So keep using we, but remember to throw in those I statements. Another thing, we were taught as women to be professional, serious, polished, and perfect in order to be taken seriously. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Authenticity rules. Keep that quirky sense of humor that you have. Keep that way of gesturing. Don't lose your accent, which shows the culture that you're from. Keep it in order to be not just accepted, but persuaded, because your job is to move people to take an action, not to be seen as the expert, not the lecturer, the person who is boring. Now, to do that takes tools. So we're going to talk about storytelling today. We're going to talk about roles and intention. But I'll tell you a couple other things that are traditional with public speaking, and they're not relevant anymore. We were taught to put one hand in your pocket and gesture with the other hand. Who thought that one up? We were taught to never point. We were taught to never have your hands go above your shoulders. What is this, little blades of grass? Just free your hands. Use them. Gesture natively. There is no such thing as too Italian or too Jewish. I know, I'm Jewish. Now, I did record myself and see that when I get excited, I have helicopter arms, and it's a repetition that I needed to stop. So if you see when you record yourself that you maybe count on your fingers, or you move your arms like I do, or you have your arms plastered at your side, which is even worse, because then you can't breathe as well, and it looks very unnatural. Look at that habit you have and break it. Otherwise, that's you. That's Sophia. That's Annette. Beautiful names. Is it Paula? Paola? Paola. Oh, I'm terrible. Thank you. Okay, now gestures. Also, women were taught to memorize their content, to be seen as polished and perfect. We don't trust polished and perfect. We don't trust memorized. So when I work with my clients, I find out what their intention is or what they want to achieve, and then how to structure an outline. Because if you can work off an outline, you can then grab a piece of content and connect with your audience, which is the most important thing, is to be engaging and authentic. But if you memorize or try to memorize and you forget one word, you're screwed. You're tanked. That's it. And then you fumble, and then it's very hard to dig yourself out of the hole. But if any of you do make a mistake while you're delivering your content, this is all good for men as well as women. Stop, poke fun at yourself like, I'm switching to decaf, or in English that would be, and continue, soldier on. Because if you pay attention to that critical voice in your head that says, I just screwed up, I forgot something, they don't like me, they're judging me, you will never be as fully engaged and be as successful as you could be. So let's start the interactive part, and please just unmute yourself. How do you think we can all turn off that critical voice in our heads? What is it we need to do? Anybody?
To be
Sophia,
our true self.
be our true self. Exactly. And so one way to do that, Sophia, is when you're feeling anxious or you screw up, use an I statement. No one else has had your experience, and it's a great way to fill in and get back on track. Remember those I statements. What's another way to turn off that critical voice in our heads?
To recognize we are the subject matter experts in our field.
Just the opposite. Anytime women say to themselves, I am an expert, or I need to be an expert, we start to get all tied up in knots. What if somebody knows more than I do? What if they challenge me? So please, all of you, don't ever strive to be an expert. You can be a seasoned veteran, you can be a motivator, but I got news for you. Experts tend to be boring. They tend to talk too long. They tend to go all on and on about their topic, but they don't do what I'm looking for. The way to turn off the critical voice in your heads is to put your attention out on the audience. What would serve them best? And this is true whether it's virtual or live. Because if your attention is out as opposed to in, that critical voice shuts up. If not totally, enough so that you can learn to really be an engaging speaker. And the best speakers are not experts. They love their topic, they're invested in their content, and they want to share it because they know they have something of value to give to the audience. So thanks for being my softball, Dana, for me to move the conversation. So we want to turn off that critical voice in our heads. We want to have our authentic, unique voice. And as Sophia said, when in doubt, use an I statement. And here's some other tricks and techniques and tools. Who can define intention for me? Jennifer, can you just tell me your definition of intention? I put her on the spot. Throw her a lifeline, anybody.
Intention. It's just having something that I know, like a result in mind, or something that I know I want to accomplish or do.
Good. A result in mind, something I want to accomplish or do. Now you notice she didn't say, I want the audience to do. Before you deliver any presentation, think about the one intention for you that you want to achieve. Good going, Jennifer, especially putting you on the spot. Next, always have your intention active, not passive. Who knows what the difference is, or thinks they know what the difference is between an active and a passive intention? Annette, you have this very thoughtful look on your face.
So for me, an active intention is when I kind of follow it so that I have some action on it. And passive is if I have it somewhere in my head, in my body, and if I don't show it, if the auditorium, if they can't kind of feel it.
Wow. Okay. I love your twist. All right. You're so close. An active intention is what you, the speaker, wants to persuade or convince your audience of. A passive intention is believing it's your job to educate them or make sure they're informed or understand. And most speakers walk on stage or go to a virtual session or meet with a potential client and think their intention is to educate them, make sure they understand or are informed. It never, ever is. But if you go in with a persuasive intention, you can use facts, you can use comparisons and data, but you're going to persuade someone to take an action. And my coolest rule about intention is never say your intention out loud. Why not? Paula, why don't you say your intention out loud?
Because you put like a expectation in them and like substitute what they're really expecting.
Exactly. It's your agenda slide. if a speaker tells me, Deborah, you're going to take away these 3 points today, I go, maybe not. I'll be the judge of that. We don't like being told what to do.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
Paula is right. If we have as an intention, I will persuade them to take this action. Maybe it's to get another meeting. Maybe it's to bring me in to speak about my book. And if I can't say it out loud, who has some ideas how I'm going to achieve it? Because I'll bet all of you, I know I am a very intentional person. So you can't say your intention out loud. But Elizabeth, how are you going to achieve it?
I think by asking questions of the
Yay.
audience to get them engaged, and somebody will respond, and
You're
that'll spark.
absolutely right. And sometimes you may have to review who's in the audience ahead of time because you can't ask them questions, but then you tailor it. Always tailor your talk to the audience. Always, always, always. Nice going. Ask questions. What else? Can you think of anything else? I know, Elizabeth, you might have something else to say.
That's what I do is try and get them, at least one person to respond, because if one responds, then others will follow, is what I've noticed. And then
Good.
to your point, the focus is on how can I help them? What are they looking for?
Exactly. Now, if you memorized your content, you couldn't do that. And you can never flex. Women were taught to never make a mistake. I hated that, but I was a victim of that. I was a good girl. They skipped me twice in school, and I thought they made a mistake twice. And for the rest of my schooling, I felt I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It took me till my 20s, early 30s before I felt I can own who I am, and I can speak out in a way that's different than anybody else. Has anybody else used intention to get somewhere or to achieve something that most people thought was impossible, like Dana writing a book, like getting out and speaking in front of an audience, maybe a chamber audience, maybe it's moving to a new location? Has anyone used intention to achieve their goal? I'd love to hear about it. Beatrice, do you have an example?
Maybe it's that I always have an objective and establish an strategy to get that goal. So I'm trying to imagine how to work without having an intention, how to do anything without having an intention. Maybe as I connect later, maybe I'm not understanding.
Oh, no, you understand perfectly. So Beatrice has the synonym of objective for intention. She is absolutely right. And the second thing she said is she always has a strategy for achieving her objective. So you lead your life intentionally already. Now, I want you as women, as authors, as professionals to apply intention to whenever and wherever you speak. Because instead of trying to be an expert or give out a lot of information, edit your material for what you believe will allow you to be effective anytime and every time you speak. Now, if we can get Coco back, the next thing that goes with intention is role, picking a role, a suitable delivery system or filter. And if I'll wait a couple of minutes, maybe Doug or Dana can support me in finding out where she was. She's getting ready to go on holiday on Saturday, and so it's I know she's going to come back and forth. So we'll skip role for now, but we'll come back to it. Next, what is the difference between speaking in person versus virtually? Anybody experience the differences and want to share them? There's one huge difference, by the way, in terms of being effective.
I would say, in terms of being in person versus virtual, you can feel the room when you are in person. And for me, when I speak, when I would be in any sort of meetings, presentations, discovery, that first impression, there are so many silent cues that you pick up on in person versus in a virtual environment, that you can really tailor your, whether it's your pitch, the way that you want to communicate, and the way that in which you want to, you know, establish your delivery and the way that it lands. I always had this motto that if I was selling a product that had a certain price point to it, I would always want to be there in person.
Exactly.
Because you're, number one, you're showing that you're invested in them, that you're going to be there in person. But you can read the room and you can tailor your presentation and the manner in which you speak, because again, depending upon who you're in front of, whether powerful women, a powerful man, that wolf in sheep's clothing that they like to come out towards the end to challenge you. I feel like being in person is much more powerful. However, virtual in this day and age, you can't get everybody into a room.
Hold that thought. You could give a whole webinar on this. I can tell already.
I could,
Let me address what you had to say. Yes, Lindsay is right. You read a room better in person, but in today's hybrid world, it is not always possible to be there in person, especially when it's traveling across the world. However, there are things you can do to offset the huge distraction factor when you're on virtually, because that's what it is. Hi, welcome, Pauline. People are distracted by web browsers, what's going on in the background. Their emails are coming in. It's mind-blowing. That's why we will not give we will not give group trainings unless they're in person. But one-on-ones, webinars, podcasts, love this virtual environment. Now, here's how you make it work for you. Number one, your statements have to be shorter when you are on virtual. You don't have the luxury of, as Lindsay was saying, getting to know who's in the room and having that conversation. You have to dive off a cliff right in the beginning, have short sentences, and make it about the audience right up front, or you're going to lose people. They used to give you a minute to 2 minutes. They'll give you 30 seconds or less. So if you can start with something that concerns your audience right away, like I said, everything you learned about public speaking is wrong. I wanted to grab your attention. I wanted to give you something you didn't expect. The old-fashioned way would be this. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to, and here's my, I could go on for 2 to 3 minutes without saying anything of value. And that was the accepted mode of transportation. It is not anymore. So never use PowerPoint for your open or your close when you're doing a webinar. Ever, ever, ever. We're getting to know you, not a PowerPoint slide. And when you do use PowerPoint, it's a visual medium. It is not your crutch or your cueing device to have your script or your bullet points up on the screen. And then your slide is this big and your image is this big. Can you tell how upset this makes me? For opening, you want to grab the audience's attention, make it relevant to them, and be authentic to you. When we work together, I work a lot on people's opens and closes, because that's the only thing that I tell people, know it cold, because anxiety comes about 5 to 10 minutes before you start and peaks about 5 minutes after. If you know you're opening, you're so much more prepared and feel so much better. However, there are entertainment techniques, because I come from the world of professional actors and performers. I've worked with Demi Moore, I've worked with Danny Glover, I've worked with Angela Lansbury and Rita Moreno. I've learned a lot from these incredible, talented performers. They know if they grab your attention in the beginning, it's so much easier to keep your attention after that. So knowing your opening and your close. When you're going to rehearse to know the opening and closing remarks, here's some tips from the pros. Never rehearse it the same way twice. If you do, your memory locks it in and it starts to sound canned. So you know the one message in your opening, you know what you want to say, but mix up, do a copy and paste like it's a Word doc when you rehearse it. Sometimes you may like the reorder better than the way you had initially constructed it. Other times it doesn't matter. You do it 3 or 4 different ways, and when you're ready, virtually or live, to start your presentation, whatever way it comes out will be just fine, I guarantee it. The entertainment industry gives us a lot of tools and techniques. Intention comes from the entertainment industry, since films and TV shows are always shot out of sequence. And the only way they fit together later, when they're edited, is if the actors know their intention and the director knows their intention. That way, and of course there's all kinds of other crew members who make sure there's continuity, but that way it will hold together. So that's a rehearsal technique. Also, always rehearse out loud, never to yourself, because then when you go to deliver it out loud, sometimes your voice will sound strange or odd. If you can, deliver it to a friend, or when we have clients, they will deliver it to me, not with full strength or energy, but walking through it. It's called a stumble through. You walk through it, and sometimes you go, oh, I think this can be better. Oh, I don't like the way this sounds. I'm going to change up this word. And that's your stumble through before you go out on the ice, like any good performer, skater, someone who is used to being in front of a room, and you will be fine with what comes out and that full potential that you put behind it. Now, before we get into storytelling, I would like to hear from you questions or what you would like me to address. I'm looking at Sophia and she's always looking questioning. So I'm wondering if there's something that you would like me to talk about, and something that's either plagued you, challenged you, or that's a fun best practice that you have. Anyone that, please. Free coaching.
I do believe, Deborah, that to be yourself is a key. Yeah, you have to be prepared, but be authentic. I think people did have an ear for that. If you don't mind, I try to be short, my story. First time ever to be in front of the microphone, that was when during the ceremony, I was one of the honorees of Influential Woman in a Business. That was in 2016. First time ever to be in front of the microphone. I know I grew up in Morocco, which I know my family was traditional. We didn't have even though the right to speak in front of a guest or a people. However, my passion for what I'm doing, my company, we are exporter of automotive products from US to several countries. Back to the story. We were 15 women in Chicago to get that award, and it was really an anxiety for me, how with my accent, with my background, but I know that a passion led me there. But I was really authentic. I say hell with it. All that women, they were outstanding, really. Before me to have their speech, I said I will be by myself, and then I express myself how I am honored to be between outstanding women to receive that award. And I did mention that my background was not a factor to help me to succeed in my life. And I think people in that audience, they picked up what I said their way. Then after 1 week, they want to have an interview with me. I did an interview. Guess what? They put that ceremony in newspaper, and they put my picture in my office in the first page in the newspaper.
Love it.
I was wondering, yes, all the other women, they're outstanding. But I realize be myself, be authentic, speak out from my heart, share my story. It's heard. I think it's very
so
heard.
Sophia brings up so many great points. I'm going to break it down.
Thank you.
Good for you for figuring out the best thing you could do is not try to copy the other women, but give it your spin, your voice. That's
Right.
the first step. Next, I want you to hone your message more, because you wanted to give me so much background about that it took too long to get to the main point. So the same when you speak, figure out the one message you want, and then know that people respond to the whole idea first, the emotion, the shared values. Then they back it up with background. So let me ask you this, Sophia, and this is going to be tough because I want it in one line. Why were you honored to accept that award? What did it mean to you? Give me one line.
The main line that we can do it, women, we can do it. And I did it, even though nothing was helping me out to get on that stage. And with a
Love
passion
it.
and be yourself and try to prove it when
Okay,
my
okay,
words were
stop
not
when you're
there.
ahead. Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm going to come back to you in just a second. Know that we can do it is a great theme. A theme is an easily repeatable phrase, which is suggested by the open. You can do that open by saying what you did and didn't get growing up and how you adapted it. That's a powerful speech. Let me come back to you, Beatrice. I don't want to have you forget what you were going to add to it, please.
No, I was just giving an applause to
Give
Sophia.
Sophia,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Good, good. So, Sophia, you're on the right track. Of course, they wanted to interview you. Most people are not brave enough or vulnerable enough to share their personal journey, but it isn't about you. You only share pieces of your journey as it affects or moves other people. And
Right.
that's what will keep all of us from talking too long. So you have a powerful story, and always, the film axiom, leave them wanting more. Leave them so that the organization will come up to you later. Leave it so that people in the audience who shared something like your story, feeling out of place, will come up and want to know more. I love it. I won a Women of Influence Author Award, and it meant the world to me. So congratulations. And my hometown is Chicago. Okay. Here's some other ways to be memorable. For those of you who were on last time, this may sound familiar. Learn to speak in visual snapshots. We were all taught to be general, polite, considerate. That makes us totally forgettable. The more specific you are, the more you paint a picture. It's like a rock falling in a body of water. It's like it's this. The more our brain pictures it, doesn't matter what country you're from, and the more we can take an action. So 1, be memorable by using visual snapshots. 2, be novel and surprising. Welcome, Vanita. No one wants to hear a boring same old speaker. We've heard enough of them. The bar is so low for most speakers. I can't sit through a webinar when someone drones on and on. Makes me crazy. Life's too short. If you're novel and surprising and pull me in, I'll stay a long time. And 3rd, learn to be authentic. And that's not easy. Most of our lives, women, especially women in other countries, were taught not to speak up. We're taught to sit in the background. We're taught to be support systems. End this. I want to see more women out front. That's why I wrote the book Out Front, How Women Can Become Engaging, Memorable, and Fearless Speakers. I donate that book to high schools, to colleges. If you have a group of women and they're in the US, or you'll pay for shipping, I will donate copies of my book to your group. I want it to be different in the next generation. I don't want women's choices limited to being at home and making babies. I can't believe the world I'm living in. I thought that was done in the 1940s and 50s. Okay, back to you, Sophia. Speaker anxiety, as I said, plagues so many people. But when you speak about your own journey and you see people light up or nod their heads, it's so gratifying. Test it out. Do little bits at a time. And always make your story relevant to what people in the audience are going through. Okay, what else would you like me to address? Let's dive into stories. Okay, who has a success story that they would like me to shape, or we will shape together? because to get any content, especially a story, down to under 2 minutes takes structure and practice. As Mark Twain said, I didn't have time to write a short letter. It's tough. It takes editing. So we haven't heard from Pauline or Vanita. Do you have a success story? And nobody's been prepared. So I'm catching you all off guard that you would like us to shape together. Pauline?
Hi, Deborah. I was just thinking about that. I actually have a webinar I'm going to put out, which is who's in charge. So for me, that's my story is I'm fed up with the fact that women are fighting for equality and it's never going to happen. So I think we should explore who's in charge and understand that.
Wait, before you start, first of all, I love your voice and I love how passionate you are. Before anyone starts a story, what is the one message in that story of why you were successful? Tell me, and then I'm going to be listening to it as you tell the story about who's in charge. One message only. And that's the hard part because we have so much content and experience. How do we narrow it down? So what is one reason why you think you were successful about being in charge?
Because I look at the big picture and not just individuals.
Perfect. Now, all right. So now we're going to shape that story and we're going to break it down into segments just for the sake of everyone else learning from you. Would that be all right, Pauline?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, the big picture. So what was the obstacle? It could be personal, it could be external. It can make it as colorful as possible, describing the obstacle. And if you can, add what was at stake if it wasn't solved and how much time did you have. This is act one of any story. I'm listening.
I think it's because I've always had a passion to see how the whole thing fits together, connecting the dots. And I also want to be an individual, and it's the balance between harmony and freedom.
Now, Pauline is giving us all background and context. Are you from the academic world?
No.
Oh,
people
okay,
always think I am, and I'm not.
It's true. All right. So I will be listening for that message, Pauline. But the way to tell a story where people pay attention is start with act one is the obstacle. So what was the challenge or obstacle you were facing? Make it really specific and colorful. What was at stake if you didn't solve it? And how much time did you have? Act one of your story. Go ahead, please.
So act one is being the third child of four, very energetic, very close family, and sometimes feeling that I'm not heard and that I'm a bit crazy. So
this is perfect. Now go back to one incident, one event in your childhood, as opposed to the umbrella. It's the same for sports, by the way. One family event where you didn't feel heard and you felt like, and then what was at stake if that continued? Let us know. I remember
wanting to be a rebel and being told by the family unit, no, you can't do that. So I wanted to go to art school, and my dad said, no, you can't do that. That's not a very good idea. And I thought, oh, but I want to, but I didn't have enough nerve to say, I'm going to do that without you. And actually, I reflected later on, it was a good idea not to go.
Right, that's besides the point. You're letting truth get in the way of a good story. Okay, Pauline. So every time I ask you a question, you get more and more specific. This time, it was that Pauline wanted to go to art school. How old were you when you asked your family?
16.
16. And your family said, no, I don't think it's a good idea. What was at stake for you by being rejected?
My identity.
Yes.
You know, being a creative.
What did that creative look like? Paint the picture. What did you like to do? Sculptures, watercolor?
No. I very specifically, I like drawing and creating shapes and then coloring them in. In fact, I just started doing that again. So it was about putting my creative energy onto a piece of paper and also dancing and just being a lively energy and being identified for myself, not having to go the regular way.
Exactly. So Pauline is starting to open up and share. What are you thinking and feeling as she starts to share that obstacle part of her story? Anybody jump in. Elizabeth.
That it's fascinating, or that maybe I could relate in some way.
Exactly. My mother was a very talented artist, and she wanted to go to the Art Institute, and she got a scholarship. This is in Chicago, Sophia. And her family said, we can't afford it. You can't go to art school. And to the rest of her life, her identity was affected. So as Elizabeth said, we relate to it. So that's act one of your story. And it's no background, no context. Act two, obstacle, solution. What are 3 things you did, without giving away the end of the story, Pauline, to find your identity over the next few years? 3 things.
I did what was the best option in front of me.
Is that general or specific? General.
Well, but I stayed at school,
okay,
and I love maths and geometry, so I excelled at that because I wasn't allowed to do art and maths. So they made me do art and history, which was crazy. But I then decided I would take control of my life, and I filled out a form to go to university. And
wow.
I by fortuitous luck, I ended up in the right path. But I now believe it was all to be.
Wait, that's general. What's the right path? We're with you. We're tracking with you.
Well, the fun thing was that I noticed everybody was filling out these forms to go to university. So I found an old prospectus in a desk, and it said, this is a course on sociology and statistics. And I thought, oh, that'll be okay. I'll fill that in. I didn't know I'd get it, and I did.
Okay, that's act 2. Your personality is coming out each time. Act 3, obstacle, solution, benefit or outcome, and then unexpected benefit. So what was the outcome? And be specific for me. And then what
The
was
outcome was I got a very good offer, which I
2,
achieved
2.
through my A-levels.
Wait. Offer is general. See how easily we
I
fall
got
back on generals?
I got a place at university, so I went off. First time I left home, so I went off into an adventure, my first major adventure, and I had a fabulous 3 years. Met my then to be husband and had a great time. Saw lots of musicians, and I just lived it. I lived an amazing 3 years. I had no plan to go forward. I just was.
Okay.
I learned to be in the moment.
Okay, so that's the outcome. What was the unexpected benefit of not being able to go to art school?
The unexpected benefit was that I went into that university experience in the late 60s, which happened to be a very fun time of musical exploration as well. And I don't think I would have got that at art school. So I learned to be myself.
And
That's
flexible.
what I learned.
Yourself and flexible. So Pauline could use that story to influence young women. She could use it when she gets up to speak on a topic of flexibility, of a topic of challenge. Or, see, you said big picture, but I don't think it's a big picture. I think as women, we need to be flexible and do what we need to do to get the goal, the objective, the intention that we want. It takes creativity.
Yes.
None of you need to be more of an expert, but when you're more creative about achieving it, I know you'll be successful. I've seen it again and again. And when you go against the grain, like not using PowerPoint, like opening with a disruptive story, like coming on and dressing or coloring your hair the way you want to, you won't please everyone, but you'll be successful with the people that matter.
Yes.
I want to take one more comment about what you would like me to address, because you are my people. You are my tribe. You are what makes me get up in the morning and work.
I think
Benita,
that's fabulous, Deborah. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Benita, anything you have a question about? While she's thinking, I will tell you, When you're on virtually, your background is important. Sophia has a great background. She's blurred it. Keep it as simple as possible and have just this much headroom. When I work with high school students, young women, the camera, they only let
Oh,
their
yeah.
eyes show through. That's how shy they are. And then as we start working together, it moves down further and further. Ideally, it should be around at your waist so you can gesture and people can see your hands. Make sure the lighting is good. Use a ring light and always put the ring light on golden, on amber. I don't care what nationality you are, it makes your skin look better. And for me, it hides the wrinkles. So I'm sticking with amber. Also, with your audio, never pot it up fully. Just do no more than 3/4. That doesn't mean if you're like the doctors we counseled who have to give diagnosis to 85-year-old patients, they can't crank it up high enough. But for the rest of us, 3/4 is just fine. And install CRISP, K-R-I-S-P. It's a free software to get rid of background noise. Because as you know, when there's a refrigerator, a printer, or people coming and going, it's very hard to keep clear audio. So Vanita, give yourself less headroom and more of your beautiful face and body. And you're going to need some lighting. There you go. Okay. A little, even more, less headroom, more of your body. Pauline's got it right. Paula, you're just about right. I would back up just a little bit. And the only thing is, your corporate logo fights with your face. We want everything, all the attention to go up to your face. Keep your clothing when you're in virtual sessions simple. Blue is best. It means you're approachable and trustworthy. Elizabeth, that dark jacket and pink shirt is fine. It's your skin tone, so that's okay. Beatrice, you are just like peeping in a door. What do you call that? Back up. We want to see your more of your body so we can see you gesturing. Okay. So Vanita, did I vamp long enough? Is there anything else you want me to address?
No,
Oh,
particularly like what everybody talked about. I do in person as well as webinars.
Yes.
And I wanted to know more about engaging. And I think you spoke about that earlier, like engaging the crowd when it's a webinar, because it's easier
Great.
to do it when it's personal because you you get to see who your audience is. But do you focus on the audience or you just look, somebody said to just look straight to the back of the
Oh, no. Great question. Always look at where you think the audience is. Like right now, you're looking away from me and away from all of us, and it's as if you don't care. We pick up those signals. Now, remember, variety is what grabs people's attention. So if you just drone on, you've lost my attention in about 30 seconds. Make it about people in the audience. Call on them, but always make them feel supported and positive. And if you can, identify some people ahead of time. And right away, Vanita, make your topic about what the audience cares about. We don't care about your background, your experience, your schooling. I'm sorry, we don't care. But if you can give us something valuable that we can use, oh, we love you. We think you're the best. And stories like Pauline got it to about being flexible and looking at the silver lining when she had a negative experience, I'll remember that story for a year. I won't remember facts and figures. And why we always think we need to depend on facts and figures, I have no idea. So, Lindsay, it's really nice to see you. And it's so much different when we can see a face as opposed to just hearing the audio. Okay, so engagement techniques. Variety. That means sometimes throw up a picture, sometimes call on people, sometimes do an interactive exercise. There are breakout rooms, and you, as the facilitator or host, can go into the breakout rooms. And then never do more than 3 buckets or topics per conversation, right? We don't remember more than 3. So if you're doing one on becoming a great writer, as Dana wrote the book about, you can Do one bucket about what kind of experience you want to put down. 2, where is the audience and how do I get distribution to them? And 3, how do I follow up with things like social media? Keep your buckets into 3, whether you have a 10-minute presentation or an hour or 2-hour presentation. And again, with variety, make it interactive, make it colorful, make it something it's so memorable that when people leave, they go, oh my gosh, that went by fast. Anything else about engagement techniques, Vanita?
What would be the appropriate time for a presentation? Like, I know sometimes we tell people, okay, we'll give you 5 minutes, but they go on
Oh,
an hour.
you don't
what
mean
would you
time
say?
of day. How long? All right. So we are used to on TV doing what's called magazine format pieces, CBS Sunday Morning, the evening news, where 5 to 8 minutes is max. But depending on what the audience wants to hear, 15 to 20 is fine. The only reason to go more than 20 minutes is if you're doing a technical in-depth session. And when I go to do keynotes at various conferences, sometimes they'll say, fill an hour. If that's the case, don't ask people to wait till the end to ask you questions. They'll forget what they said and they'll be bored. Tell them, as it comes up for you, ask me a question. You should know your content well enough. And remember, you're not memorizing, you're working off an outline. So it depends, Vanita, what you want to achieve, who your audience is, and what your intention is. Great question. I have lots of tips. And by the way, never sit next to me at an award show. When I hear people get up and give acceptance speeches that are terrible, or they go, I am not prepared, or I can't do this, I'm like, this is your moment in the spotlight. Be prepared. Okay, that's another thing of mine. All right, I can do roles if you like. Can I call on Jennifer since Coco, Doug, I don't see Coco, which is too bad.
Yeah, she must have been pulled away. Sorry about that.
Okay, I've been looking for her. Jennifer, can I do a quick exercise with you?
Sure.
Okay, she's real confident about that, isn't she? All right. For many of you, and I can tell already, you are seasoned veterans. That doesn't mean old and white-haired. You've been doing things a long time and you're good at it. Correct, Jennifer?
Yes.
Give me something that you're good at that you've been doing a while. Any topic.
I'm good at creating win-win-win collaborations.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so you can talk about it as a seasoned veteran, and let me ask those of you chime in. Is a seasoned veteran more street smart or book smart? I don't hear anything.
Both.
Hopefully straight.
Yeah, hopefully street. You are absolutely right. And are they afraid to talk about what they know?
No.
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 Now, Jennifer, does a seasoned veteran give advice?
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe sometimes.
She's absolutely right. They don't give advice, Vanita, no matter how much you looked affirmative, but they do tell you what is. And that's what's so much fun about listening to a seasoned veteran. I'm not going to tell you what to do, Sophia. I mean, you can crash and burn. That's not my problem. But I will tell you what I've experienced from my perspective. They are so much fun to listen to. So, Jennifer, I don't want you to talk about win-win. Is there another topic that you know a lot about? Cooking, writing, traveling, kids, anything?
No more hiding. It would be like something I'm very passionate about not having to hide who we really are.
Great, not having to hide. Now, don't worry about a story like I did with Pauline. No beginning, middle, and end. Talk about not needing to hide as the seasoned veteran. Be colorful, look back in time, look forward in time, and say it with total authority. Now, this is not Jennifer's native personality, so she's got to come out of her shell to do this. And I really appreciate you being a volunteer. Was she volunteered? Okay, go for it. 1 to 2 minutes about being ourselves and coming out of hiding.
Yes, well, unfortunately, a lot of times, especially if we are disabled or neurodiverse, we can often be made to feel like we have to hide our gold, hide the things that makes us different, hide the things that makes us special, fit in those little bitty boxes people like to put us in, wear the labels that they want to put on us, and it really limits us. It can also
Now,
damage our
too many
self-worth.
us's. Now, give me an I
Oh,
statement.
sorry.
You're doing
Yes,
great.
okay.
I mean, I could listen to you for
Sorry.
hours. I statement. How does this affect you?
Yeah.
Why are you passionate about it?
I'm really passionate about it because it happened to me. I felt I wasn't worthy. I felt I wasn't good enough to be at the same room, let alone the same table with people. And I put myself through things that I didn't necessarily have to go through in order to
Such as,
fit
for
in.
example, I put myself through things like,
For instance, the client wanted to meet one time in Manchester. I have a huge fear of flying, social anxiety. I can't wear heels because of the different conditions that I have, but I dressed in the suit, which isn't me, wore the heels, did the flight, went to the meeting, and on the way home, I literally broke down in tears on the plane because I was in so much pain. And that taught me never again do I need to do this. And ironically, it was when I was going through what I kind of called the three waves. My husband had had a stroke. 2 months after that, I got my cancer diagnosis. And then COVID hit 2 months after that. And in all of that chaos, I was scrolling through social media going, right, what the heck are we going to do? Right? We've got kids, we've got a house. How are we going to eat?
Jesus.
And I realized, oh my goodness, what are all these women who sound brilliant and do all these cool things, but they're hiding. They're not wanting to talk about their disability or their chronic illness or whatever makes them different to people or less than because we are seen as incapable, as not good enough, not valuable enough. And that's when it really just hit me. It was like in the middle of a tornado, that was the eye, the center. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I hide too. And that's when I knew, I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I knew that that was my mission to change
Give
that for other
Jennifer a
women.
hand. Please, Jennifer, this is the most potent, powerful story I've heard in a very long time. And that shy Jennifer went away entirely. And you had no practice and no prep, and you delivered something so powerful. So keep speaking from your voice. I couldn't have a better way to end than to say thank you for all of you, Lindsay, Jennifer, Elizabeth, Vanita, Pauline, Beatrice, Paula, and Sophia, for being my volunteers so that you can show other women how it works. I hope to hear from you. I can put you on our tip of the week so you get a speaker tip, quote, and word. Let me know. Just reach out to me. Thank you, Doug, for bringing me back. This is a great group. I'll come back anytime.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Is there anything known as imposter syndrome?
It affects 90-some% of women. Most of the women I have dealt with in the last 24 years have imposter syndrome, whether they have 3 degrees, whether they are juggling a family and a practice and multiple responsibilities. And the only way to get rid of the imposter syndrome is to use the techniques you learned today. And it isn't easy and it isn't fast, but I can tell you it's absolutely doable. I now can go in front and talk to anybody. I'm not that shy kid who hid out with braces and no boobs and was always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely. I think so, because I think I think Sophia, like what she said, just being yourself, your authentic self, you always resonate with somebody. Somebody in the room would hear you and see you. So yes, very good information. Thank you.
Thank you. You've got my contact info in the chat. Yes, Doug.
Brilliant information, very powerful. Hope everybody walks away with Deborah's contact information and be in touch. Thank you so much, Deborah. You're amazing.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.